Welcome back to the Red Cassette. We're doing a good old-fashioned hi-fi tech review video, and this week it's another hi-fi component from my setup. It's the graphic equalizer. It's the Technics SH-8058 stereo graphic equalizer from around 1988 to 1990. That's when it was produced. It's a digital graphic equalizer with 7 bands per stereo channel. Now the digital aspect of this here graphic equalizer is very important, and I shall talk a little bit more about that a bit later on in the video, but we'll jump straight into the overview and the sort of where I pan from this side to that side of the hi-fi and talk you through some of the features and how it all works. So we've arrived here at the point of the video where I go over the different bits of the device. So first of all, let's turn the power on. And as you can see, I've already got a bit of music playing. So we'll start from this side and work our way this way. So I'll put it in the spectrum level mode, so here you can see the equalization that I've currently got set up. Now I can change this as much as I desire, really, by changing these sliders. As you can see, there's 7 per channel, as I mentioned in the intro, and you can really move about and get them sounding as you like, if that makes sense. It's obviously best to do this when the music's playing, but when you can hear the music. But obviously, I don't really want a YouTube content match, so I shall play a little bit of YouTube library music through it, just so that you can get a feel for the different sound profiles that we have working on this, if that makes sense. So we'll give it a go there. Yeah, so you've got a feel for some of the different sound profiles. So we'll move across. Obviously, for the left channel, it's all the same buttons. You just press them and they move, as you'd imagine. So we'll take a closer look at one of the displays. So as you can see, we're in EQ level mode. So if I put it in spectrum analyzer mode, you'll see the entire spectrum displayed on the window. Obviously, any flickering in the video can't be seen in person. It's just down to cycles and things in the electrical system and the way it interacts with my camera. So yeah, as you can see, we've got every band, all 7. So you've got 60 Hz, 160 Hz, 400 Hz, 1 kHz, 2.5 kHz, 6.3 kHz, sorry, 16 kHz, and the full range there. The full range always stays like that, so even when you're in spectrum, even when you're in EQ mode, you can still see what the full range is. So that's just like essentially a VU meter at that point, isn't it? And at each end, you've obviously got the spectrum there, like the how many decibels you're putting out essentially, and the equalizations. So you go minus 12 dB to plus 12 dB with the different equalization options. So then we'll move over to here where you can see the bulk of all the controls. So here's where you've got your presets. You've got 3 presets you can do yourself. You've got a rock preset, a jazz preset and a vocal preset that have all got sound profiles that are good for those, and those are all fixed so you can't edit those, but 1 to 3 you can fix. So let's say I want to change that to drop the mids. You then can save that by pressing memory and the place you want to store it in, and you'll see that if we move it over to the lights, you'll see that when I press memory, the memory light flashes, and then I just select which one I want to set that new equalization to, if that makes sense. So my only real gripe with the controls is the fact that the equalizers, the equalization options, don't quite line up with the one that they are controlling. So here's the 16 kilohertz one, and it's doing that one. That's not too confusing, but it's when you get to these ones, I mean, to be fair, that's quite central, but you can tell it's not, they're not directly underneath where you're controlling, if that makes sense, so it's less than ideal. So yeah, back to the main controls now. So obviously here we've got the memories and all the presets. Then you've got the EQ level button, which is the mode we're in now, and that can go into spectrum analyzer mode just like that. You've then got the spectrum level button, which will allow me to level the spectrum at 3 different points. So there's a high point, a mid point and a low point, and it just cycles through the 3 like that. Quite self-explanatory. Good for if you're listening to, say, a record, you'll have it in high mode because records can be quite low in their output, or a CD, you might have it in low mode because CDs can be quite hot, if that makes sense. And then you've got obviously the on and off button, so that just does the equalization. You can see what effects that essentially having. It turns on and off your equalization. That's useful to have because it means that you can have the device turned on with the nice pretty patterns, but without having to have the equalization. But generally I wouldn't say that you need to do that. And then this is the good thing particularly about this, and if you're a bit of a hi-fi enthusiast, the fact it's got a tape path. You can route a tape through this, and you can also record to the tapes the equalization. So if you've got a certain tape that you want a certain equalization, you can record to the tape with that equalization just by pressing that essentially, and when that light's illuminated you're doing that. But yeah, always good having an extra input on your hi-fi, especially if you want to have loads of really niche things. It is very, very useful for that. But yeah, that's generally the overview of the device. So back to me having a chat about it. So now you've had a good look at the device, what are the uses of a graphic equalizer? Well, first of all, you're going to improve your overall sound quality. I know that whenever this is turned on with a nice equalization, the hi-fi overall sounds much better. And it also means that in certain environments, certain times of the day, maybe certain types of music, you can have a different equalization that's more tailored to that, so the setup is generally more customizable, and the sound you can really form yourself, if that makes sense. You can really have a lot of control over how your music sounds. Furthermore, it also could be used for reducing noise. Tape hiss is one of the things that it can be used to try and not negate, but reduce. Also, if you're listening to, say, a live record and you don't want as much crowd sound and wind noise, especially with some are quite poorly recorded, so if you've got, even if you recorded it yourself, you might want to tone down that sort of noise. There are equalizations that will do that. A lot of them are actually in the manual, and it'll show you how to line up all your equalizations. And recording tapes, you can use this. So as I said in the overview, it has a tape loop in it, and you can use it. You can add the equalization to the tape, so the tape will sound generally a bit better. This is particularly useful for if you're making a tape for a car and your car stereo is quite muffled. You can try and improve the overall sound quality of your car stereo by recording a tape with an equalization that's more tailored to the sound profile of the speakers and stereo system in your car. Obviously, that's a massively niche problem nowadays. Not many people have a car stereo that still has a compact cassette player, but it's there if you need it for people who have a Mazda MX-5 from 1991. So yeah, those are some of the key uses. But the thing that I mostly use it for is, one, because it looks nice. I like to have the bouncing little meters showing me what the music looks like essentially. And I also use it for troubleshooting the hi-fi. So if I can hear there's something not quite right, I can look on here and work out where in the path the problem is. Is it in the amplifier? Is it in the equalizer? Is it coming straight out of the? Is the problem originating from the component itself, or is it a speaker problem? I can work that out by using this, along with other things, of course. Like, this doesn't tell you everything, but it's there for, and it's quite useful when you are running a hi-fi that's nearly 40 years old in some cases. So it's certainly worth having for the troubleshooting, as well as obviously the sound quality things as well. So what are my overall conclusions about this device? Is it worth getting a graphic equalizer for your vintage or even modern hi-fi for that matter? Well, first of all, you do need to check that your amplifier has the facilities to have things added into the audio path. So for example, it needs an audio out and an audio in somewhere between the component and the speakers, if that makes sense. So there needs to be something on the back that'll say, like, maybe graphic equalizer or something like that. There needs to be somewhere where you can plug audio coming out of it and audio going back into it from one of these devices, and you can add as many of these sort of devices in a chain as you like. I mean, there's reverb amps, there's all sorts of things. There's a real rabbit warren of stuff that you could add to this hi-fi via that connection. So that's the first thing you need to work out. But is it actually worth having if you can have one? Certainly. It sounds much better with one on, and I like to be able to tailor the sound and have the nice bouncing, not VU meters, but you know what I mean, the equalization showing you what the music looks like. That's really cool. And the nice thing about it as well is you don't necessarily have to have it on when you are when you're listening to your music. It can be turned off. It can even just be used for the for the graphics. You don't have to have the equalization on, as I've probably gone over in the little overview bit. But yeah, so overall, definitely, if you can get one, get one. eBay prices nowadays are quite expensive. They tend to be fairly rare because not many people bought them, especially if they're a separate. A lot of hi-fis, if you see like an all-in-one hi-fi with a graphic equalizer, then that's probably decent. I know I've got a friend who's got his. He's got, I think they're sliders, but it's still good to have. You can play about with it. If one speaker's sounding slightly muffled, you know, you can alter it and make it sound less bad, if that makes sense. So yeah, they're definitely worth having. So if you are looking at getting one, definitely do so. And if you're not looking at getting one, maybe have a think. It might be worth adding to your hi-fi. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. But for now, ta-ra.